You are the most important technology that you need to worry about. You are the most important source of information that you need to worry about. You are the most important task that you need to get done. This is the all of the all. This and you is the all of the all. When we go inside, that image of turning inside out pops me into you, pops you into me, pops me into all the people of the world. Because inside of us, when we get down to that God particle, that one single divine absolute that is making everything, that is smaller than you could possibly comprehend, yet is everything that there is. And it's printing us all out on its tiny very own. It's so complicated that is the reason why when you dive into the self, you have all your answers, because within you, in every particle of your being, is God. You are God. So is this, so's the whole house, so's the chair, so's everything. Everything is the all of the all. You can study as much as you want and learn all the things about the ancient pyramids you want. They're great, they're vital, they help balance the energy, or they used to when they were set up correctly. They can help you become more of a God being if you were to properly use the King's Chamber. When it's properly set up, people report it still does amazing things. Whatever the outside things are, irregardless, you are the all that is the all. Those are external tools created to help you focus your energy in the correct direction. Any kind of rune you're looking at is helping you focus your energy. Words that you read on a page are helping you focus your energy. You hold the power to do whatever the pyramids can do for you. For real. You hold the power to do any of it. Like if you were to do a full water immersion baptism or healing or sound healing, all the modalities we can do to ourselves using outside tools, we can accomplish from within. We have that much power. Think about it. There are people, and I was one of them once, that can separate from our body and walk around as an astral being. That's just one of the shockingly amazing things we can do. Oh, what, that my body I just like left. That's cool. Because we are so interdimensionally complicated. Every time you're dreaming, you're entering different realms. Now, you're going to say, well, I just can't. You don't understand how depressed and upset I am. You don't understand how hard this is. What do you mean I can just do whatever I want myself? If you can do that, why aren't you living in a palace made of gold? Because we all have a subconscious. We all have this thing within us that is almost 95, depending on who you are, it's on average 95% of who you are. 95% is subconscious. So your consciousness could be trying to manifest whatever it wants. And this is why I flood places like Twitter now with different ways and different angles to get through to you how important your mind is. So do we have the power to change reality like that? Yes. But what would that require? Having the subconscious fully on board. So what are we really looking at doing? We're looking at rewriting our subconscious programs, which is what Carl Jung was all about. That's what he is one of the greatest teachers we have in our modern age, because you can learn all the ancient wisdom you want, but what's actually going to change your life is studying people like Carl Jung. Even people like Neville Goddard, however you want to say it, are people that are going to help you. Joseph Campbell are going to help you rewire and refire your synapses. Joe Dispenza style. He's a most modern teacher we have, teaching this information in a very simplified way, because it is that simple. We are that powerful, but as part of the game, to keep this not like just so easy, we're not in easy mode, we're in hard mode of this video game. This subconscious, but it's our subconscious. So this is not a powerless place. This is our subconscious. Yes, things have been brainwashing us from birth, pre-birth, pre-lifetimes. There's so many things involved in our energetic makeup, our astrology, and all these things. But with the anthropic principle of us all being God and all time and space existing at the same time, and us and God like being this simultaneous same being, we have the options to change ourselves directly and immediately, but there are things put into place to kind of limit that ability. But who did that? We did at the topmost level. And when you get into that space of knowing that you're the one who actually decided this, then you can start to, instead of complaining about how you're a prisoner, you could start to ask, why did I put those things in place? And then you start to see the game that this earth can be. When I bought this house, a friend of mine said, get ready for the montage of changing life. And we got this house about 5 years ago, because it's a lot bigger than where we used to live. And it's true. It's constantly, like, if you were to put it on fast forward, the house is constantly growing and morphing into better and better and better. Well, that's exactly what we get the opportunity to do here. There is millions or billions, trillions of years where we get to live as beings, where whatever we want is manifest instantly. Well, that gets boring. This world was created as a playground, which I'm sure you've heard before, and then, oh, prison planet, you blah. If you study that information, especially the stories about Pan and that original, it sounds like Lemuria. So perhaps Lemuria and Pan are the same stories. Perhaps Lemuria was the original race, and Atlanteans, which we know it's told in a lot of stories that they didn't even originate here. So perhaps that Pan story and the Lemurian story are the same story, and the beings that came down into Pan and the beings that came down in, they call them the Lemurian race, but perhaps the whole thing was Lemuria, and these people came down and they corrupted us, but we allowed it. I especially know this is from the story of Pan. They welcomed them with open arms. And there's even Atlantean stories when the versions of Atlantis that where they're the good guys, they had beings come in and they allowed them to come in. Where they had Martians and Hebrews come from other planets, other dimensions, and they both separately ruined their own places. They came at two different time periods. I think the Hebrews came first and then came the Martians, and the Martians were worse than the Hebrews, but they started corrupting the way things were. But we allowed it. It's no different than being a good kid at school and then getting a naughty friend and listening to what that friend tells you and then thinking you have to listen to be polite. Like that whole thing where we let our will get taken over because we don't want to hurt people's feelings, because the human actually is innately good. There is deep goodness inside the human. The issues come because we're very twisted with our animal nature. Back when we were more magical, Lemuria or Pan, we were naturally magic. We were very innocent. If you know the story, The Dark Crystal, we were the Gelfling, a lot like that, except more magical. We were fairies, we were elves, we were these mystical creatures that, and the whole planet, which we already know, had a lot more mystical creatures back then. But slowly and surely, these beings that came started telling us, and it doesn't matter which story you're looking at, it's very similar. They started telling us that our magical ways were stupid. They introduced money into the system. They introduced an entire, I want to say corrupt, but it's not their fault, because the entire time we allowed it. And this continued on this way for thousands of years of slowly letting them just erode our society and letting them, which means there's personal karma accumulated with that because we let them. And we can say we because right now we are the story of humanity. But when you talk about the all of the all, we are also a part of that Hebrew race. We are also part of that Martian race, or the Pan story. It was dragons and wizards, like fire dragons and wizards, dark wizards, good wizards. There was both. And then there's these beings they called the warriors. Archons, if you know Gnosticism, that sounds like archonic behavior to me. And it accumulates and it grows, but we are all of the characters in the story. And as the human is now, because then you could bring in the Arcturian stories later on and how we were diddled with and completely retooled and created differently, how we are now with very limited magic, and the way we take energy is very low because they brought us to such a low place that when you do that, like when you're gaslighting somebody, I think this is why narcissism is becoming so prevalent in gaslighting, is we're trying to show ourselves what happened to us. And we were gaslit so much that we were dumbed down to just somehow they took us over violently. The stories vary, or we just agreed to it, or they did it without even asking, and they changed us, and we were completely changed. But when they did that, they put a little bit of themselves in us. All of them did. We've heard of the Palladians and all these different races, even the lizards putting themselves in us to live out their stories in this physical world. So the complicated story, it has deep and many tentacled ways you can look at it because the stories are all over the place. But when you learn a lot of stories, you start to build an archetypical makeup of how this all looks, and you can see the similarities like Pan and Lemuria and go, are they two different timelines that are similar? Or are they the same story, but the game of telephone got played and the names are changed and some of those things, right? This is what we hear and see a lot, like the stories of pretty much every civilization vary, especially the major ones. Like the Mayans, we have a few stories there, and it's coming out, I think, that they are way more powerful than possibly any of the races we had. Like they're apparently time travelers. Like it is interesting to learn these things. It is fascinating and it grows your mind. But what grows the self? What fixes this story? What gets us untangled and back to our magical self? That's going inside. When you go inside, you can find the blocks that were placed hundreds of thousands of years ago, blocking us from our magic. And there's many different paths you can go about finding this self. But what I have found the best, because you have the Eastern philosophy, but you know how the Eastern philosophy differs, but is also very similar to occult philosophy. And that's Eastern philosophy is made to be done over many lives. And they say that it's made to be done over many, many lives. The occult philosophy, the Western way of doing magic, it's powerfully orchestrated to send you through fast. And that's with rituals and all these things. But personally, what I have found, because I've tried both, I've tried it all. And that's more of actually just diving into a Carl Jung way of approaching things. A Joseph Campbell, an archetypical Neville Goddard also inspired way. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. This right here, this space in your heart center is very real. It's your most important and vital center. Working with this center will automatically help the upper and the lower. So we hear about Kundalini awakening and working on your Kundalini rising. I did a little bit of that, but it's not a discipline I was ever able to stick with, yet I had a full anointing. I have always worked with the heart space anointing, or it's also a Kundalini top-down awakening is what that's also known as. And it's permanent. And it's because when you work with the heart, you unblock it. When you unblock the heart, you now are able to take that crown chakra energy that's always emanating down upon us and allow it to blast through the whole system. So you awaken everything. It's not like enlightenment is never 100% now I'm Buddha. Buddha worked at it for many, 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 many years. before he was what he was. And who's to say that was even perfect? He was an enlightened being, but still a human, right? So, I mean, it's said that he died because the chef warned him, and even something they're trying to tell you in that story, the chef warned him that and he was in his 80s, but warned him the food was poisoned. It was toxic, it had gone rotten, it was spoiled, and back then spoiled food was literally deadly. So it was spoiled, don't eat it. And he said he could handle it because he was that enlightened spirit would save him. I forget exactly what he said, but he said, oh, don't worry, I'm fine. I'm going to be good about this. He wasn't, he died. Now, whether that's true or just like an allegorical story, it still is trying to present us with the fact that he was not perfect. The only perfected being we hear about is Jesus, but even that story is very convoluted and there's many different versions. Point being here is that to be human, we must allow ourselves to be human and then just simply work on the inner self. And that means going through your own story. And we're not talking about in a way, poor me way, but in an I'm God. What does this mean? If I'm God, let's say your story is a gospel one day. It's written down in the books for the future. What does each of the things that happened to you mean? Why were you beat? Why were you screamed at? Why were you assaulted? Why were you made fun of? Why did you not look the way you wanted to look or act the way you wanted to look? Let's unpack this, because I bet you will find that it was all ways that the divine was trying to open up and bring out your magic, bring out more of who you could be, because you are meant to be as much as you want to be. And the highest of the divine, your highest self, is going to want you to be as much as you can be. They didn't necessarily come into this body because they wanted to struggle in the smallness for long. And as far as they are concerned, it's the blink of an eye as we sit down here and suffer in turmoil. And it could be multiple lives, especially once upon a time. Now we are set up for things to be fast forwarded. We are set up for intuition to happen easier. So for you to sit back and dive into your past, into yourself, into your future. Think about what you want for your future. What does that mean? And unpack the self. We are really meant and provided a bunch of guides, and if you try to just barely tap into it, you'll feel them. They're closely around you and whispering at you all the time of don't eat that, don't go there, don't talk to them, don't, or do talk to them, do wear that, do go there. Whatever the nods are, and this is where I like human design, depending on your authority type will be how you should try to listen to them. For me, that's splenic, so that's a instant, barely of a whisper. Some people have their sacral be their authority, and that is intuitive as well, but they get more information. Then there's emotional, and you have to go through a while of feeling how you think about it and really wading through your emotions. And there's outer authority, which outer influences will actually matter more to you. There's a whole different ways to look at it, but you can even just like try to listen in and just feel how you're hearing them and learn to walk in that direction, learn to listen to them in that way. And just use this as your project. You can read books, that's fantastic, but you're not gonna, I read all the time, so I'm not saying you shouldn't, but those are not your answer. And if you're reading them, you need to use it as a way to see what this means for you. This is the age of Aquarius, so it's actually all right to be like a bit of a narcissist. This doesn't mean you want to be evil. This just means you want to think about yourself in every single situation. What's this mean for me? How does this factor in with me? Me. We're allowed to be like that right now because it is dividing out the individuation of the human, which was the ultimate goal of why we were made from a cosmic divine God level, is God did want to experience itself as independently as possible. And we actually achieved that in the 90s. So we've been done since the 90s. And that's why things have gotten more chaotic. In 99, there was a big change. In in 212, there was the hugest change. In 216 and 218, there's been all these huge. 220 was huge, 222 was huge, 224 was huge, 225, now the huge doesn't stop. 225 is a boiling beaker that's going to keep going. In 2027, we're supposed to have another major event that we're supposed to see physically, because most of the other things are energetic and then they play themselves out physically. That's still going to be the case in 2027, but apparently we're supposed to see something. It doesn't really matter though, because what really matters is whatever you want. And I think of the 2027 as kind of being a reveal of whatever I want. I haven't fully decided, but I am focusing on aiming my intentions for the future. I'm not a person that actually naturally thinks about the future. I'm very carefree in that regard because I trust the universe so much. It's like, I don't want to say too much because they do a great job at taking care of me, but too much in the sense that I don't always necessarily decide what I want for the future, except I know I want to help you. I know I want that to grow. I know I want to teach. I know I want my kids to be happy. I do like to be affluent, but it doesn't need to be a golden house. Like, I do like to, like, see how I mean, it's very vague. But if whatever your thing is, that satisfies me though. I'm happy with that. I'm always, it's an energetic place I can feel right here, where it's like a beaker, boop, 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 trying to signal if a future is there. And there's not one that's 100% yet, because every micro choice is heading in different directions. I've seen a lot of people talking about how there's only one timeline. I'm sorry, no, because that's not how reality works. Maybe the darker ones are gone, but the constant layering of timelines is how we work. Otherwise, we're not individually each God, and we are. That is what all of the teachings line up for, and that is what your inner self says. The more you enlighten, the more you realize it's all you. Everyone else is just a reflection of you. Except, do you feel like you're a reflection of me? Do you think you're an NPC? No, you're not. You are just as individuated as I am, which means there's however many humans is however many timelines. Potentially however many beings is however many timelines. And they're going to cross and flow all over each other. So each decision you make is deciding which timeline of the self you are picking up on and you are walking towards. And eventually, so you start walking down a timeline, okay? You are not necessarily cutting off other potentialities, not at first. But as you walk up that timeline, like imagine the lines on your hand. As you walk up that timeline, there's all these other little roads, okay? Well, as you get further and further up, you've now like lose access to the bottom one, so you can't go back. But let's say you were to walk up a little and then you do want to do this, it'll pull you back on to that similar timeline. So like I made a mistake, I want to go back. You actually can, to a point. Certain things will be changed and it won't be exactly the same. But you can get yourself to a place like you want to move to Oregon and you do some things that were like not on that path, but then you can come back and that'll still be your path. It depends. It's so varied because you have so many choices and options in your life that whatever you decide will have so many variables in itself. And that's just how complicated we are. So go into the self, find out the self, find out your path, walk your path. I repeat, find the self, and I know that sounds like, what? Because it's an energetic space of knowing blocks. And this is why on my Twitter, if you're interested in knowing more tangible ways of using this, every day now I'm kind of trying to stick to a theme of manifestation, not manifesting a car or a house, although that could be part of it, but to be the conscious creator of your lived reality is what I'm nailing down as my main focus. And if I look back through my channel, I'm seeing that kind of always was it. I've been trying to bring this forth because it just goes against what they try to put us in with, and that was that we had no control over our reality. That's what my parents used to even try to get, oh, just forget about ever being rich, forget about ever being happy, you're born poor, you die poor. Like that kind of mentality. We want to cancel and nullify any of the negative thoughts that still might exist in our head, and any of the negative thoughts we might have been pre-programmed with, any of the negative thoughts we're still hearing from the outside world, and just go inside with everything that happens to you. Just be inside and listen. Listen to your emotions, listen to your feelings, listen to your own thoughts. If you have an argument, if you have a good time, if you bump your toe, if you win the lottery, go inside, because with every single thing that happens to us, there is an internal something that's going on, whether it's a yay, singing happiness, or a like this is how I, like a block can feel like, it's literally like it hits a point and you get a little, I can't, that's my explaining it, because it's energetic. So you're learning how to feel it, and you can put it on, they say that there's the two scales, pleasure and pain. So put it on that scale. Sometimes it's in the middle and you're not even sure, and you could try to, when we deep breathe into the heart space, we pull it in, okay? And we are doing our best to like disintegrate it, to let the energy flow through it. And then sometimes we can't. Sometimes it's a hard little metal ball and it's going to just stay there. That's okay. Just allow. Sometimes it will expand. Maybe it'll still stay there, but you've expanded it. You've put holes in it. You're starting to see it. You're teasing at it and it's starting to come apart. Okay, that's great. Sometimes it will. It just, you just released a block. Right? This is why deep breathing is so essential. Deep breathing is the only modality you really need to worry about, because all of this that I speak of I don't think it's possible without deep breathing, or at least it'd be very delayed. Like you could probably do a little bit, but deep breathing is taking what you're doing energetically, timesing it by like 1,000,000, because I could go in, I've done videos on this, but there is ether in the oxygen, and there's God in the oxygen. And it can come into you. There's water is God as well. Earth is God as well. So try to use all of our elements, even fire. I've been known to stick my finger in fire. Fire is great to burn anything that you don't want as a part of you, that you want to just forget about, that you want to just let go of. That's where you can bring in ritual. And there's so many different tips and tricks I could talk about for days. My channel's filled with helpful information on how helping you transcend ascension. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any other questions, please always let me know in the comments, or reach out to me at awakening@transcendingascension.com, and I will be happy to get back to you with any help I can provide. So thank you again for tuning in to Transcending Ascension. See you next time.